Hello, everybody. We are tuning into the Mopes and Hoodies podcast.
What up, squad? How y'all doing this week?
That's Kevin. I'm Ryan, and let's get on to it. All right. So, Kevin.
Yes.
To recap the weekend, we had a lot of stuff that happened.
Yes, we did.
We had the AFC and NFC championship games that took place as the Jaguars squared off against the Patriots in Foxborough.
Yes, we did.
And we had the Eagles and Vikings battle in Philly.
Yes, we did.
Other news: Johnny Manziel is making a comeback. We'll see what Kevin's thoughts are on that.
Oh,
Also, the concern for the Blackhawks is Corey Crawford appears to be out for the season.
Yeah, he has a little bit of actually a lot of things. So we'll dive into that. And also, folks, don't forget, we are not going to neglect the National Basketball Association, as with the trade deadline coming up, we'll be looking at the Bulls, the downward spiral that is the Cleveland Cavaliers, and also, Ryan, we're not going to ignore the fact the Rockets have now won the season series against the Warriors, winning 3-1.
They're no team to look past, and we'll talk if we're either talking about the NBA or Fight Club, because there's been a lot of fights that have been happening.
Don't talk about Fight Club.
First rule.
In the meantime, though, we are going to start in Foxborough, where if you did not watch that game, well, then honestly, I don't really know what you were doing between the time of 2 o'clock to about 4:30, as you were treated to an instant classic of a game. As Ryan, in the beginning of that first quarter, the Jags came out like they had something to prove in that first half. Going up, I believe they were up, let's see, it looks like at the half they were up 14-10, but it didn't look like they were only up by one score.
Oh, they looked to. I thought it was going to be a blowout. Personally, It was they got off right off the bat to a good score, and you saw that the Patriots were frustrated. But again, we got greatness on the other side. So.
You heard it first here last week, ladies and gentlemen. I said without a doubt that as long as Tom Brady is not playing the New York Giants, he will find a way to win. And also, you have to keep in mind, Ryan, that he didn't have Gronk in that entire second half.
Right.
After he took that helmet-to-helmet hit that knocked him out for the rest of the game. So you had Isaiah Hogan stepping up, Danny Amendola. I mean, Danny Amendola, how many times has he been there before? You know, along with your Wes Welkers, your Julian Edelman. Everyone forgets Julian Edelman has been out this entire season.
Right.
With that ACL injury. Brandon Cooks stepped up and played like a number one yesterday. You had Dion Lewis, catching passes out of the backfield like he always does. And you saw that Patriots defense step up and get the job done when it had to be done.
It always seems that those players from New England always step up. But the first thing that I caught out of that game was it was experience versus inexperience.
Yep.
You have Brady on the other side, and a team that's been there before multiple times versus a team that hasn't been to the playoffs in a while.
And that is what you saw in that game with the penalties that Jacksonville was taking.
Right.
And I noticed, especially in the secondary, you had Jalen Ramsey. I mean, yeah, the guys were acting big and bad like they have been the whole season. But you can't act like that until the game is over. And I think that was summed up perfectly when I believe it was Dion Lewis who rushed for a touchdown in the fourth quarter that put the Patriots within a score. And he rushed through, was about maybe a 3-yard run, and Myles Jack, had him wrapped up, but then 5 yards in the end zone after clearly the play was over, Jack throws him to the ground and then stands over him and tries to taunt him.
Right.
That you could tell was the youth and inexperience of the Jags, that I think they let the emotion of the game get the better of them at times, and that's where you saw those mental lapses like that.
Right. They had a lot of mental lapses. Obviously, you look at the penalties. I believe the Patriots only have one penalty or zero penalties.
Let's see. I got the penalties here. Patriots had one penalty for 10 yards.
Right.
Do you want to take a wild guess as to how many penalties Jacksonville had?
9 penalties.
6 penalties for, get this, 98 yards.
We always see that with inexperienced teams, man.
98 yards, including that one pass interference penalty. I believe that was in the fourth quarter. It turned out to be a 36-yard penalty.
Right.
Because the cornerback on the Jags pushed Brandon Cooks threw to the sideline, passed out of bounds, and didn't let him get a chance to get back in play and try to make a play on the ball.
Mm-hmm.
But if he had done that, then guess what? The pass, he probably wasn't going to catch up to the pass anyway.
Right.
But instead, he didn't give him a chance, and that's what happens. And honestly, other than that, Jacksonville dominated this game. Time of possession, 35 minutes to 24 minutes for Jacksonville. Let's see what else. Both teams had 22 first downs. Both teams had 16 passing first downs. The Jags had 6 rushing first downs, and the Patriots only had 3. The Patriots also did get 3 first downs from penalties. Jacksonville was more efficient on third down, going 6 for 15 rather than 3 for 12. They had 10 more total plays than the Patriots. They had 30 more yards than the Patriots. They both had the same drives. They averaged about the same yards per play. They passed for 273 yards to the Patriots 298. Blake Bortles didn't make a mistake yesterday. He didn't throw an interception. The Jaguars outrushed the Patriots 101 to 46.
Right.
But again, those penalties killed them, and the fact the Patriots defense stepped up when they had to.
Right. Yeah, I mean, once I saw that touchdown in the fourth quarter that brought the Patriots to 20-17, you just knew Brady was stalking his prey. It was almost like he was a mascot, the Jaguars on the other side. Yep. He was like hunting his prey, and he just waited to pounce.
The Patriots smelled blood in the water.
Right. Right.
And that Jacksonville defense, do you know what killed them in that second half was Marcel Darius going out because he was hurt. You had Marcel Darius go out, and then I think like 2 plays later is when Miles Jack went out of the game. Mm-hmm. Those were 2 of your best defensive players, and especially with Darius out, the Patriots were able to start getting that screen game going, and they were able to get a little bit more action on the play action because they were able to give a couple more rushes because you didn't have Darius in the middle clogging up the running lanes up the middle. Right. So that, folks, was a great game. Well done by both sides. Again, I liked it more because I was proven to be right. Because who doesn't enjoy being right? But then moving on, we had what most people thought was going to be a close game, if not a blowout the other way. But, Ryan, the Philadelphia Eagles showed that this team is for real. With Carson Wentz or without, this team is for real.
Right.
And I don't think that was epitomized any more than Byron Maxwell taking that pick 6.
Oh, right off the bat, yeah. You could tell the momentum of that whole entire game shifted.
And the Vikings never recovered from that. It was tied 7-7 in the first quarter, and then the Eagles just scored the rest of the game. They did all the scoring the rest of the game.
Right.
And let's take a look at that. Again, time of possession, 34 minutes for the Eagles, about 25 and some change for the Vikings. Both were relatively similar in first downs, 27-22. And folks, all these stats are coming from ESPN.com. 19 passing first downs for the Eagles, 17 for the Vikings. 7 rushing first downs for the Eagles, 4 for the Vikings. Each team had 1 first down on penalties. There wasn't really that many penalties in this game either. Mm-hmm. But the whole thing is that Nick Foles...
It's the story of the game.
There's a reason. Guess what? You don't make a Pro Bowl in the NFL by accident. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, you don't make a Pro Bowl by accident. And that's what everybody forgets, that, oh, he's not that good, journeyman quarterback. Well, I'm like, this guy made a Pro Bowl his second year in the league.
Right.
And if he plays like that in the Super Bowl, it is going to be a fantastic game. It's going to be a fantastic game, but honestly, that Vikings team looked like the Vikings team that played against the Saints, and we talked about it last week. If the Vikings played the way they played against the Saints, there was no way they were going to win.
Right.
And apparently that's what it was. Maybe this Minneapolis miracle, as people are dubbing it, wasn't really a miracle after all. And the Vikings just got lucky.
Yeah, well, I was surprised that it ended up turning the way that it did, because you saw right off the bat how wide open Kyle Rudolph was for the first score of the game.
Yep.
And I was like, you know what? Here we go. Minnesota, they seem like the team that's destined.
Yep.
But I love how the Eagles went to the sidelines. They're like, you know what? Let's put that aside. Then they went down the field. They
bounced back. They came back with that score of their own,
right.
Tied it up, and then Case Keenum gets pressure off the edge.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was Connor Barwin that brushed his arm as he threw it. Byron Maxwell steps in front of it, picks it off, takes it to the house. And then from then on, you just saw the look on the Vikings that just took all the air out of their sails.
Mm-hmm.
And they just looked like a team that, honestly, within the second quarter was just beaten.
Right.
Because that team, again, was a team that was used to playing from ahead. And there were not that many times this year where they were playing from behind.
Well, going into the Super Bowl now, like, you might be having such a lopsided game. Do you think
could.
that? I mean, Eagles have a good defense.
I could see a scenario where it turns into a lopsided game,
mm-hmm.
but at the same time, you don't get to the Super Bowl in the NFL by accident.
Right.
I don't care what example you draw on, or even a couple years ago, when the Broncos played the Seahawks and they got absolutely destroyed by the Seahawks. You don't get to the Super Bowl by accident in the NFL. You just don't do it. So it would be foolish for anyone on the Patriots to bypass the Eagles and say that they got another Super Bowl.
Right.
Because, and guess what? That's another thing. The Jags didn't learn their lesson from what Pittsburgh did to them. Because you had Jalen Ramsey saying that we're going to the Super Bowl right after that Steelers game was over.
Mm-hmm. Already looking past, like, hey.
You're looking past the Patriots? You're giving the Patriots bulletin board material?
Right.
Shame on you, Jalen Ramsey. Shame on you.
Yeah.
But no, that's going to be a great game. If Nick Foles keeps playing like this, it's going to be a fantastic shootout between him and Brady. I mean, the running games are about even. I mean, the Eagles are going to have a bit more of that power running game with Jay Ajayi, but then you got LeGarrette Blount, who, fun stat for you, as of last night, he now leads. He has the most postseason touchdowns among active players with 10.
Right. I mean, that's not shocking.
He's been there before. He was on the Patriots.
Right.
He's been there before. You have guys that have been in the league for a good amount of time on the Eagles. Now, none of them have been to a Super Bowl, except Byron Maxwell. Byron Maxwell has been to a Super Bowl as part of the Legion of Boom when he was in Seattle. But you've got some really explosive playmakers. You obviously got your guys in the backfield, Ajayi and Blunt. You got Alshon Jeffrey. You got Zach Ertz at tight end. He had a nice game yesterday. The offensive line, I feel like the Eagles is going to hold up pretty well. But the whole thing is that are those receivers going to be able to get open against the Patriots secondary? Because the Patriots secondary, they can cover people.
Right.
And the Eagles defense is solid up and down the board. But guess what? Jacksonville's defense is pretty solid too. And Tom Brady found a way to beat, and the Patriots found a way to beat them too. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what adjustments both teams make. And it's going to be one hell of a game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I just don't want to see a blowout, man. And I think the reason why I think that is because Carson Wentz is not in quarterback.
Yep.
But again, we've reiterated this like a million times. Nick Foles is no slouch. We know he's coming in. He played a terrific game against the best NFC defense.
Nick Foles, people. I'm telling you, do not sleep on this guy. Mm-hmm. The man can play. He wouldn't be in the NFL if he couldn't play. Right.
Well, it's too early to make a prediction, but
yeah, let's just try to get to media day first.
Yeah, let's go through the circus of media day
and see who's going to be the highlight of media day this year.
We know it's going to be a story of the last time they fought with Donovan McNabb. We'll see how
Donovan
that goes.
McNabb, Terrell Owens, Brian Dawkins. Baby. And guess what? That game came down to the now old man, Adam Vinatieri, to kick a game-winning field goal. And that was the last time the Eagles were this close to winning a Super Bowl, who they are, I believe, Ryan, one of the three teams to have never won a Super Bowl in the modern era.
Right.
I believe it's the Vikings.
You're correct, yeah.
the Eagles and the Jags and also the Lions. I'm sorry, Detroit. Forgot about you.
Didn't bring my Barry Sanders jersey today. But hey, Kevin, you know what the world revolves around?
Food.
That too, but money. Money Manziel, that is.
Oh my
So
God.
Johnny Manziel, as of the other day, took to Instagram saying that he's making a comeback, whether that's in the States, south of the border, or north of the border. What do you think of that?
And well, the whole thing is, I thought of Johnny Manziel the same way I thought of Tim Tebow in college. Johnny Manziel was fantastic to watch in college because he made plays at A&M that, I'm sorry, a guy that size, one, should not be that athletic playing quarterback, and two, you saw this guy take over games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this guy beat Alabama twice.
Right.
Twice. That's also probably 2 times more than most quarterbacks in the SEC ever do since Nick Saban's been there.
Right.
And he was a fantastic college quarterback that, honestly, it's not even that, he went to the Cleveland Browns, so his career was okay. Honestly, that probably wasn't going to help him in any way.
Right.
Because he was on the Browns. But his game just didn't translate. And by admission of people in his inner circle, the man didn't take football seriously. He didn't take the NFL seriously. He was focused on being a college kid. And guess what? While you're in college, that's totally fine. If you want to go out, you want to have a good time, by all means, go ahead and do so.
Mm-hmm.
But why are you going to leave school a year early to go to a job that, one, by admission of his family is not poor by any means. I mean,
right.
they own an oil company, for Christ's sake, in Texas. And two, if you're not going to take it seriously, why are you going to bother? Because he got eaten alive by the NFL. He got eaten alive. And there's a reason why he's not in the league anymore. There's a reason why he's not in the NFL anymore. Now, could he have a career in Canada? God, yeah, he could have a career in Canada. And honestly, I hope he does make a good career for himself because, again, I loved watching the guy in college. His personality was so refreshing that in college when he was at A&M, you saw he was just a big kid out there having fun. It's the same reason why I love Baker Mayfield so much. But the whole thing is that Baker Mayfield has that competitive fire, that drive, the will to win that you want in a quarterback. He has that fire of a Brady, a Rodgers, a Breeze, that he wants to win, and he doesn't take it so seriously that he doesn't allow himself to have fun. That's the thing that messed up Manziel, is that he wanted to have fun, but it just didn't seem like winning was important to him. So I guess we'll see how much he really wants to play.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen so many times that money changes people, you know, and I think that was the one effect. He was on top of the world for a little bit there because he beat Bama.
He won the Heisman.
Everybody was raving about him. I mean, damn, when he came out and I was playing Madden, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna put him on my franchise.
You wanted Johnny Manziel in Madden.
So, which you kind of brought me into my next question. If you can go back, because you brought up Tim Tebow, if you can go back, who would you pick between those two?
Are we talking about as an NFL player?
As an NFL player, you are picking somebody out of the draft to be on your team. Regardless, you don't even know how they did in the NFL.
Okay.
Who are you picking?
See, the whole thing is in the NFL game, let's be honest, neither of them did very well. But Tim Tebow somehow won a playoff game. And the thing is that I feel like Tim Tebow could translate better because if you didn't have him be a quarterback, guess what? That man is still 6'2", 6'3", athletic, and he can run the hell out of the ball.
Hey, the Mets brought him back up.
So you could try to convert him. You could justify trying to convert him to be a running back, an H-back, a wildcat quarterback who, guess what? you have him run. Then guess what? He pulls up, throws that jump pass like he did at Florida to a tight end right over the middle. You could do something like that.
Right.
Johnny Manziel, I don't think I would take a chance on Manziel in the first round like that.
Yeah.
Now, that's if you're holding a gun to my head saying you have to take one, because I'd prefer not to have either of them. Mm-hmm. But if I had to pick one, I would probably take Tebow. Yeah,
I mean, in terms of overall size and how we would adapt to the NFL, I mean, we know Tim Tebow won a playoff game, right?
Yep, somehow.
He's a competitor.
Yep, he's a winner.
You could use him in the variety of ways, but Manziel, you're really looking at him just to be a scrambling quarterback. He's undersized, but he's Money Manziel, and that's why the Browns took a risk on him.
You would draft Johnny Manziel in order to sell tickets.
Right. That's what Cleveland did. I mean, they kind of did it for the wrong reasons.
And that was almost by their own admission. If you pay attention, that was almost by their own admission. Which is why, at the time, I was amazed that Jerry Jones didn't take a chance on him.
Right.
Because
rumors.
That would be a very Jerry Jones-esque move to take a chance on someone like that. But, I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, honestly, as a fellow football player at one point, I hope the man does well for himself. And I feel like he could have some success in Canada, because Canada, it's a bit more spread out. It's more wide open. There's more scoring. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how he performs.
Yeah, we'll have to see. So terrible news, as stated before. Corey Crawford might be out for the season. Does this ruin the chances of them making the playoffs?
Ryan, it certainly doesn't help anything, because right now the Hawks. Let's not sugarcoat. They're in trouble.
Right.
And they're in trouble fast. They've gotten in trouble quick, fast, and in a hurry. And the whole problem is, honestly, it's their star players. Mm-hmm. And I got some stats for it. This is courtesy of NHL.com. So you got Patrick Kane. Patrick Kane, Eddie Olczyk has even come out and said it. Patrick Kane is probably going to go down as the best U.S. hockey player of all time. And Eddie Olczyk said the only person that could be better than him is Chris Chelios. Patrick Kane this year through 46 games has 48 points, 20 goals, 28 assists. And in his contract, this is of SpotTrack.com. Patrick Kane base salary is $7.8 million. His total cap hit is $10.5 million. Him and Jonathan Taves essentially had the same contract. So between the two stars, 17% each of their salary cap is tied up in Kane and Taves. Now, Taves is not having a bad season. Through 46 games, he has 31 points, 14 goals, 17 assists. He's a +9. But he can't score the same way he has been able to in the past, and it's concerning. And that's the Hawks up and down the line. The only person who's shown that he could score is Kane.
Right.
And before he got hurt was Armin Anisimov, was another one. Armin Anisimov is in the top 10 of his team in points, and he hasn't played in the last 10 games. That's a problem. Mm-hmm. Another contract that is killing the Hawks. And anyone who's a big-time Hawks fan that's listening to this is going to hate me for this. Brent Seabrook he can't play anymore. The man's 31 years old, but guess what? There is a lot of tread on those tires. 31. The man has been through three Stanley Cup championship runs by themselves. Mm-hmm. And his contract is 11% of their cap. He is going to make almost $9 million every year until 2023. He is not going to play the end of that contract. But guess what? No one is going to take his salary. So the Hawks can't trade him. Mm-hmm. And Brent Seabrook can't even stay on the ice long enough now. Brandon Saad is 24. He's someone that you could justify trading, but you just traded Panarin to get Saad back. So if you were going to let Saad go anyway and trade him, what was the point in you trading Panarin? You might as well have just stayed with him.
Right.
Duncan Keith is 33. He's not the Norris Trophy winner that we saw in the past. Duncan Keith's 33. He's still a very solid NHL defenseman. He's still, I'd say, a top 4 defenseman. But these older guys, they're taking up cap space. And more importantly, they're taking ice time away from these young guys that the Hawks have waiting in the AHL. But they can't get a chance because the Hawks, you have to play your stars if you're paying them that much.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure Seabrook has played. Let's see how many games he's played. Brent Seabrook has played in 45 games. He's appeared in 45 games. What are you going to do? Pay a guy almost $9 million a year and then have him be a healthy scratch?
Right.
You can't do that. And the rest of these guys, like DeBrincat and Rutta and Schmaltz and Hartman, you can't. Henestroza, Bartlett's own Vinny Henestroza, shout out. You can't trade them because those are going to be your building blocks for the future. So then it falls on one of 4 players: Saad, Taves, Keith, and Kane. One of those guys is going to have to go.
Mm.
And it's probably going to be either Taves or Keith.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things. You know, they got rid of Darling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and now we're really screwed. We have Forsberg that's coming in for Crawford as a sub, but he's 3-7. Right, so you're not seeing any improvement. The team is obviously, like you said, old. Do we make a move? Do we trade like a guy like Seabrook? Is there any worth in doing that? You know.
And the whole thing also you have to consider, if you find a team to take Brent Seabrook off your hands, guess how much of that contract you're going to have to pay.
Right.
You're going to have to pay at least half that contract, so his contract is still going to be on the books.
Mm-hmm.
So the Hawks are caught between a rock and a hard place. Because right now they are last in the Central Division. They are last. They haven't been this far down since before the lockout of 2007, before Kane and Taves showed up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you got a whole bunch of other teams that you got to look out for.
And that's the whole question is, do you trade away these guys and just blow it up?
Mm-hmm.
And start over, or are you going to try to make a move and just hope against hope that after the All-Star break, these guys turn it around? Because, Ryan, I'll tell you something. If they don't, heads are going to roll in the Hawks front office.
Oh, yeah.
And in all likelihood, as unfair as it is, Joe Quimbo will probably be fired, which is completely unfair. Because you tell me one other coach in the NHL that could do as good a job as he does.
Right.
There's nobody. The only person I would take over him is maybe Mike Babcock, and Mike Babcock is not leaving Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
He's got enough problems up there to keep him busy.
Yeah.
There's no other coach in the NHL that could have done with the Blackhawks what Quimble has done. Nobody. Nobody could have jumbled the lines, the personalities, and had the free-flowing game that the Hawks have had. And the worst part about it is, the Hawks aren't that bad offensively in terms of puck possession. Mm-hmm. They're still top 5 in the NHL in puck possession. You know what the problem is? They can't find the back of the net. Mm-hmm. They can't. And we saw that in the playoffs last year. The Hawks couldn't buy themselves a goal to save their lives.
Yeah.
They couldn't score. And it's coming back to bite them now. Because the thing that made the Hawks so good for so long was that depth. And their second, third, fourth line guys were able to put up goals. Now, if your name is not Patrick Kane, it's like the goal mouth is 6 inches wide.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you already stated the pieces, the cemented pieces that are in Chicago. You have Kane, you have Taves, you have Keith. I mean, Keith's my guy, so I would hate to see him go.
And the whole problem is that these guys are going to be in the Hall of Fame. There's no doubt about it. They're going to be in the Hall of Fame. They're going to be in the Hawks Ring of Honor whenever that is decided. They're going to have their jerseys retired. But the whole thing is that the whole premise behind those contracts was to pay them for how good they were those years ago when they were winning those Stanley Cups. And yes, would it be awesome if all of them retired as Blackhawks? Absolutely. But unless you can somehow convince Brent Seabrook to leave $9.5 million, to leave almost $9 million on the table for the next 4 years, and convince Keith to retire, which guess what? If you have that contract and you feel you can still play, you have every right to try to play it.
Right.
To try to play. You have every right. I'm not saying, oh yeah, you should do for the betterment of the team and retire. No. Guess what? If I was in Seabrook's position, I would try to play too.
Mm-hmm.
But the organization, we're going to see what the Hawks are made of and seeing if they're going to do what has to be done. And if they are, what is going to be done.
Right.
Because that's going to suck. Because in all likelihood, we're going to see one of those guys in a different color jersey that, honestly, it's not going to look right.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to look right. And there's going to be a revolt in Chicago either way. There's going to be revolts, especially if they trade someone like Taves.
Yeah, well, you got so many other teams that are in the NHL that are they're surpassing us. You know,
They're younger.
we had such a good, what was it, 10 years, almost 10 years. Yeah. So I mean, even if this season we don't make it, you got to mend those young pieces, like we already stated.
Yep.
You got to look at what you have.
They're going to have to play eventually.
Make a play. You know, if you need to trade someone away, that's the front office. They're smart. You got to trust in the Chicago Blackhawks. Yes. So I have faith. You have teams like Nashville, Winnipeg, Vegas, the Knights over there, the St. Louis Blues.
The Knights look fantastic.
I know. I mean, there's all those teams.
Yep.
That they're still in it. You know, you have the Kings they're right at the hump too.
Yep.
They're kind of like in our situation, but they're still winning more games. So we need to keep up. We need to keep up in the era that we're in now.
If you're not getting better, you're getting worse.
Right.
And folks, to close out, we are going to talk a little bit about the NBA. And speaking of, let's start out with the bad in the NBA. And Ryan, I feel like bad is a little bit of an understatement.
Right.
The Cleveland Cavaliers, or as I recall them, the Cleveland LeBrons, they look... Honestly, it's really hard to describe what the Cavs look like right now because it's nothing like a playoff
Anything
team.
but pleasing.
And, I mean, you know, you got LeBron. I mean, LeBron is going to be LeBron. This year he's averaging 36% from three, according to basketballreference.com. He's making about 10.5 shots a game, 53% from the field, 5 assists a game, the usual. But he can't. Guy's averaging 27 a game. He can't do it by himself anymore. He can't.
Mm-hmm.
And they have no excuse at this point because this is a team that's been in the finals 3 years in a row. And Dan Gilbert made a big-time mistake trading Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
They made a huge mistake trading away Kyrie Irving. And guess what? I like Jay Crowder. He's been a very solid player in the NBA for a very long time, a very solid 3. Isaiah Thomas had to come out here last year. Isaiah Thomas was Mr. Irrelevant, the 60th overall pick in the draft when he came out.
It's my guy.
And he's worked his way from the Kings, the Suns, to the Celtics, was the best player, fantastic scorer. Guess what? Isaiah Thomas is 31 years old. Jay Crowder is 30-some-odd years old. J.R. Smith is 32. LeBron. All right, let's go the age for it. LeBron is 33. And think about LeBron's 33, Ryan. Not only has he just had, all those full NBA seasons, he's had, I'm pretty sure now, it's over a season or two worth of games with the playoffs and international competition. Kevin Love is 29. Jay Crowder is 27. Derrick Rose is 29. Isaiah Thomas, sorry, I quoted him older. He's 28 years old. Dwayne Wade is 36.
We knew that.
Jeff Green is 31. Kyle Korver is 36. Iman Shumpert is 27 and has only played in 13 games. Tristan Thompson, who you are paying a max contract to at LeBron's behest because LeBron said, I'm going to get you paid, has appeared in 25 games out of 45 games so far. He has done next to nothing for that team. Channing Frye is 34. Jose Calderon, 36. And then a couple of these other guys are in their mid to late 20s, but they don't really get off the bench very much. Ryan, and there's rumors that, Cleveland will be fine because they'll get who they want at the trade deadline. They don't have anybody that anybody wants.
Right. The Cavaliers trade rumors, right? The Clippers might offer DeAndre Jordan, which we know he does not want to be in the Clippers organization anymore.
No, he doesn't.
For Lou Williams in a package, including a Brooklyn pick. So, I mean, obviously you're seeing that Cleveland is like,
they're
hey,
trying.
We need to do something here real fast.
They're trying.
Because if you look around the league, you have Boston, they're doing
Boston
terrific.
looks fantastic right now. And who knew they were to look this good without Gordon Hayward? Mm-hmm. The Toronto, I mean, I really don't want to say Toronto looks good because we all know what's going to happen once they get in the playoffs. Toronto's just going to choke like they always do. It's the same thing with Washington. Washington looks great in the regular season. They get to the playoffs, they can't win.
They wet the bed.
And as funny as it is, Nick Friedel posted on his Twitter page, I believe it was yesterday, Ryan, the Bulls are 2 games back from being in the playoffs right now.
Oh, yeah. We talk about that, man. I mean,
whole question, again, is what do the Bulls do? Do they keep Mirotic? Do they keep Lopez?
Mm-hmm.
And do they try to make a push for the playoffs? Or do you do what I would do? Get what you can, and then see what happens with this young team. If they get to the playoffs because their young guys are winning them games, then I will not have a problem with it. But I do not want victories because of Lopez and Mirotic.
Mm-hmm.
If Markkanen comes up with a couple, he has a couple 30-point games here. Chris Dunn goes off for a double-double, triple-double here. Zach LaVine goes off for 30 points there. And we get wins because of them, then I'll take it.
Right.
But I do not want guys that are not in the long-term plan of the Bulls causing them to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Because let's get rid of Mirotic.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get rid of Lopez.
Yep.
And then if these guys can make it that far, or they finish this season with a decent record, ahead of time like we expected to.
Yes.
But what that means is that
means that the Bulls' young guys are better than any of us anticipated.
But what that also means, going into the offseason, you're going to have players from around the league that are going to take notice.
That they're young, they're athletic, and then they're talented.
That brings up free agency.
Yeah.
And that can actually get you some players. We've seen this how many times?
And maybe you can get rid of the stigma that Chicago can't attract free agents because, let's be honest, they haven't.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't. Everyone's like, oh, Dwayne Wade. Guess what? Dwayne Wade for the last 2 years was in his mid-30s.
He came here for a retirement party.
Dwayne Wade came here for the money. He said it himself. And guess what? $25 million in 2 years. Guess what? Sign me up, too.
Mm-hmm.
Sign me up, too. Dwayne Wade came here for the money. He shouldn't have been. He still shouldn't be in any uniform that isn't a Miami Heat uniform, and that still irritates me to this day that Pat Riley would disrespect that man like that.
Right.
There wouldn't be a Miami Heat organization that there is now without Dwayne Wade. There wouldn't.
Right.
And the Bulls, we'll see who, because I am not entirely sure who is in this free agency. Actually, Ryan, I don't know if you can listen. Did Russell Westbrook ever sign that extension yet?
I believe he did.
Did he?
Yeah.
Because I know in the summer the talks were right before this. He still hadn't signed that extension yet.
He wants to stay in OKC.
Yes, he does.
I'm a big OKC
Paul
guy.
George, or is OKC going to be able to re-sign Paul George?
That's the question.
One. And also, one that everybody's forgetting about, DeMarcus Cousins is a free agent this year.
Yeah.
DeMarcus Cousins is a free agent. And guess what? People, I've heard in the national media that DeMarcus Cousins is a nice player. He's not a guy you can win with. I compare DeMarcus Cousins' attitude and demeanor on the court to be a person like Kobe Bryant.
Mm-hmm.
That he's just uber competitive and he expects the best out of everyone around. Now, granted, DeMarcus Cousins, in all honesty, has no reason to act like Kobe Bryant because Kobe Bryant's a 5-time champion. Right. One of the best to ever do it.
Mm-hmm. But
if you're telling me I have a chance to get Boogie Cousins on my team alongside Markkanen, LaVine, Chris Dunn, how much money do I got to shell out?
Right.
That's going to be the question. Are the Bulls going to be willing to spend money? Is the real question.
In that aspect, they should.
They should.
They should. You should grow up and just get someone over here where we can actually have some faith in. We have young guys, right? Now, I don't personally know Boogie, obviously, but we don't know if he's a terrific guy that's going to be in there. But if he comes in, he can mend our young players too. You don't realize that. Now he does have that tough guy persona.
He's a terrific offensive player.
Right.
He's probably the best center in the game right now. I will fight anybody that says Karl Anthony Towns is better, Joel Embiid is better. Guess what? Joel Embiid, since his rookie season, has not averaged 22 and 12 and a half.
Right.
Joel Embiid could be a once-in-a-generation player, but you give me DeMarcus Cousins over Joel Embiid because DeMarcus Cousins has proved that he can play in the league for a while and stay healthy to do it.
Right. You did state to me before we went on air, the Rockets. Mm-hmm. How they're looking, baby. They are looking terrific.
They are looking cold right now. That man, James Harden, he's out. Ryan, he is out for a vengeance this year. Because if it was any other season in the NBA, he would have won. He would have been a unanimous MVP candidate last year if Russell Westbrook didn't average a triple-double. Mm-hmm. James Harden, you realize last year he was averaging close to 30 points, 9.5 rebounds, and 8.5 assists a game. Actually, no, I got that backwards. 9.5 assists and 8.5 rebounds a game. This man was leading the league in assists last year. And he hadn't... by his own admission, he hadn't played point guard since he was at Arizona. Mm-hmm. The guy who was always thought of as a guy who doesn't pass the ball. The one who you give the ball to, he takes away 30 seconds off he takes 20 seconds off the shot clock and then pulls up and shoots a jumper.
Right.
The only thing I have is that team going to be able to win in the playoffs? Because they've proven they could beat Golden State in the red. They took the season series from Golden State last night. 3 games to 1. 3 games to 1. Mm-hmm. But the whole thing is, are they going to be able to go to Oracle and steal at least one game?
I mean, you gotta really dig down deep for that.
Clint Capella has proven himself a problem for the Warriors. Mm-hmm. But the whole thing is, are you going to be able to get enough good games from guys that aren't named Harden and Paul to play against Golden State? Because you still got Steph. You still got Clay. You got Draymond, as annoying as he is. Mm-hmm. And you got KD.
Right. You can't look past the other teams.
You're not going to keep them down for 4 games.
Right. I mean, you don't look past the other teams. You have Minnesota who's in there, which I love that they're doing terrific.
Jimmy Butler's playing MVP caliber basketball right now.
He's showing it.
But the other thing that's the criticism about the Timberwolves, they still aren't playing team defense. Mm-hmm. They still aren't playing. They're slowly starting to figure it out. But in the NBA playoffs, Ryan, I compare it to March Madness. Once you get out of the first round, you don't win if you can't play defense. That's why you always see the same teams in it every year. You see the Warriors, they play great team defense. The Spurs, even the Thunder, the Cavaliers in the past. The Raptors have usually always been pretty solid on defense. If the Timberwolves, if you don't start seeing Towns and Wiggins buying in to playing defense, they're not going to go anywhere. Right. They're going to be first-round exits. And I don't want them to be first-round exits because that team is doing a lot of good things up there. But if they don't start buying in, then it's not going to matter. Mm-hmm. How good on the offensive end you are. It's just not going to matter.
Well, no matter what, you got to think who's going to challenge Golden State, and if anything, to get
it could
past
be
them.
The Rockets, as we've seen. And Ryan, do you know who else has started to really turn it on? Are the Thunder.
Which
they've started to figure it out with that 3-headed monster.
Oh yeah, Melo baby. I mean, that's the team that I was most excited about coming into this season. I'm excited to see them go, and they're getting hot, like we said.
And it irritates me when everybody says that Carmelo Anthony is a selfish. Anyone, if you're saying that Carmelo Anthony, you never watched Carmelo Anthony when he was on the national team. Because Team USA, Carmelo Anthony, that's top 3 players in the world. Because you know why? All he has to worry about on the national team is shooting when he's open.
Yeah.
All he has to worry about is shooting when he's open.
Right.
And that's what he's doing in OKC. He takes a shot if it's there. If it's not, then guess what? He'll give it to PG. He'll give it to Russ. And he knows he's going to get his shots. It's Carmelo Anthony. There's not a place on the floor that man can't score from. There's not a place on the floor he cannot score from.
I also believe he's at that point, at that stage of his career where he's like, I need to win. Whether that means that I'm not taking any shots in the fourth quarter, if that's what gets me the victory, he's going to do it. And that's more and more what I'm seeing. What?
You're also seeing Melo play some semblance of what people call defense.
Right.
LeBron James has even come out and said Carmelo Anthony, and it was an article I read several months ago. I believe it was on an SI. He said that Carmelo Anthony is one of the toughest players he's ever played against. Because the man, let's be honest, let's just call it what it is. He's probably the best pure scorer of this generation of players. I'm talking about the generation that not Kobe Bryant and AI and Vince Carter. No, the 03 draft with LeBron, Bosh, Wade, all those guys, that generation from the early 2000s, Carmelo Anthony is the best pure scorer of that generation.
Right.
At Syracuse, you saw the man put the team on his back and won a national title. The Rockets, or not the Rockets, the Nuggets, excuse me.
The Nuggets. Oh, yeah.
The Nuggets, Carmelo Anthony could have gotten a triple-double any night if he wanted to. And he went to New York. Yeah, he played a little bit selfishly. Who else was he going to give the ball to? For the longest time, the second best player on his team was Raymond Felton, for Christ's sake.
Right. And you had Stoudemire, who was out of his career.
You had New York Knicks Amari Stoudemire, who that's another guy that gets an unfair rap. Amari Stoudemire earned that contract in New York from how he played in Phoenix. Earned that contract. That man was embarrassing Tim Duncan in the playoffs. And again, we're approaching the All-Star break now, so we're probably going to have a little bit of a lapse of NBA action. We're still going to have some good college basketball because college basketball is starting to get into conference play now. But then after that, we're going to have the NHL is going to hit its home stretch. The NBA is going to hit its home stretch. The conference tournaments are going to start coming up. Baseball, they're going to be reporting to spring training in just over a month. Oh, yeah.
Real quick. We're approaching that season as well.
And then, the Super Bowl is going to be there. But then, we're going to be preparing for the draft.
We got a whole bunch of things coming up.
Yes, we do.
Which one question before we conclude. You shaved.
Yes, I did.
You shaved. Kevin shaved, guys. I'm over here working it. I'm working it, and
hey,
Kevin
man.
ended up shaving.
Hey. We had a speech and debate tournament this weekend in Butler. We took first place because, Ryan, you already know, we don't take L's around here. We don't take L's around here.
Oh, we don't take L's. This for damn sure.
So I'm sorry to everyone out there who was looking forward to, once we do a Facebook Live video, which we are going to do at some point. We'll let you guys know when we decide to do that. If you guys were looking forward to seeing me with the full beard right now, it's starting to come back a little bit. I got a little bit of a shadow right now, but it'll be back. Don't worry, the beard will be back.
It'll be back. And I'm working it over here, so you guys right now could root for me.
Except
to beat Kevin.
No, don't listen to him, because guess what, folks? He still doesn't have a hoodie on!
It's Mopes and flannels and hoodies.
Oh, God.
I keep forgetting to bring a hoodie.
That's too long of a title, though.
All right, yeah, we'll figure it out.
So, you know what? Guess what? We'll try to be better next time. Guys, look forward to us. I believe, are we going on Wednesday?
We are going Wednesday.
We will see you guys in a matter of 2 days where we will discuss pretty much whatever it is we feel like. Because it's our show, so we can pretty much
We're going to have to find something. We're going to have to find something to argue about, too. Because we haven't argued yet.
I do enjoy a good argument. It is true. I do.
So we're going to bring in stats. We're going to bring in a whole bunch of stuff. We might have some games in the studio. Who knows?
Games in the studio.
Yeah.
Who knows? It might even get to a segment where we might even argue about who what player is better to have in Madden than somebody else.
Right.
I don't know.
We might just bring in Madden.
We might just simulcast a game of us playing Madden and just trying to talk about the players that we see. So, you know what? That's pretty much going to be it. We're just going to, go along and we're going to be Mopes and Hoodies. That's why this show is called Mopes and Hoodies, because let's be honest, we're Mopes.
We're Mopes, guys. All right, that was a good show.
I believe it was satisfactory. After our technical difficulties before the show started.
Yeah, we had about an hour just sitting here. But hey, guys, we'll be back.
We will be back.
See you guys later.
Good night.